Hello again. So we're still in chapter 11, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how we measure or determine personality. So obviously one easy way to figure out who people are is you interact with them, you observe them, um, you have conversations with them, but the problem is that's not very standardized, and sometimes it's hard to interpret things accurately. Like, is that person fidgety because they've got something else on their mind? Are they nervous? They just had a whole lot of caffeine? It's difficult to determine. So psychologists wanted to set up some personality tests to measure who we are. And in a very general sense, they fall into two categories. So some are considered to be objective personality tests, where they measure a trait or maybe a few traits by asking people to respond to questions that have a very limited range of answers, kind of multiple choice sorts of things. And there's a few pretty well-known objective tests. To some extent, an IQ test would be an objective test. Some of those stress tests that we took earlier in the semester would qualify. But your book talks about a couple that are pretty widely used. So there's the Myers-Briggs. There's something called the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, MMPI. There's the Beck Depression Inventory, BDI. Obviously, it measures how depressed you are. And by using tools like that, they can compare you to other people. That's what we mean when we say that they're standardized. I'm just looking to see if there's any others that I want to mention. No, your book talks a lot about the MMPI. But if you believe in the psychoanalytic or psychodynamic perspective, you might want to use what they call projective personality tests. These are tests that don't really have right or wrong answers, but they're believed to tap into your unconscious mind. So the best known example of one of these is the Rorschach inkblot test. They show people a random pattern on a sheet of paper. It's in different colors typically. They give you a whole bunch of them. And they want to see, are you focusing on one small aspect of the picture or the bigger picture? Are you noticing and commenting on colors? Are you seeing movement in the pictures? They especially want to see what common themes you mention. Like if you keep seeing violent imagery, that might tell them something. The problem is that these tests are not necessarily very reliable nor valid, even though they are standardized. And there's been a lot of critics of the use of the Rorschach inkblot test. There's a couple others too. Your book talks about the thematic apperception test. It's kind of an interesting one. They show people a picture and then you're asked to make up a story about what do you think is happening to the characters in that picture. Again, there's no right or wrong answer, but it's believed that your answers reflect something about your unconscious issues. There's also one called either the Draw a Person or Draw a Family test. They typically use this on kids who are not very verbal, and they'll ask them to either draw a family or draw your family, draw a person or draw yourself. And they look at a lot of things, like how much space do you take up on the picture? What kinds of expressions do the people have? What are they doing? What are they wearing? What colors are being used? Who's in the picture, if it's draw a family? What about their sizes? Maybe dad is drawn 4 times bigger than everyone else. Who's in the picture? Who isn't? How far away are they? Might be interesting if, their new baby brother is on one end of the photo or the drawing and the rest of the family is far away. Again, there's a lot of concern about the validity, the accuracy of these kinds of tests, but people who believe in the psychoanalytic and psychodynamic perspective really like using them. They believe they provide a lot of insight into the person's unconscious issues. Hope that helps.